Much more intimate setting. I apologize for using the mic, but it does work a little bit better than me shouting. So I would just like to say welcome. Oh, I'm going to turn this on. Welcome to OIS. My name is Steve Augeri. I'm the head of school for the JVLR campus. And it's my pleasure to welcome you and see you all here, including students, which is nice. So welcome to the young ones. We'll try to get through this quickly and make sure that it's interesting and not too boring for the little guys. Before we get started, I do want to introduce a couple of folks. We have teams from both campuses, and I think it's worthwhile for us to put some names to faces. So we have our OGC contingent, and that is Tony Batchelor. He's our head of primary up at OGC, and Neha Minda, who is the PYP coordinator, and then Vina De Silva, who's the director of research and learning. And then we also have our JVLR team, and that includes Lisa Hughes, the head of primary, Nicola Holloway, the deputy head of primary, and also Kristen Bloom, our PYP coordinator. And I told them they needed to be in here, and they've disobeyed me because they really like to keep a low profile, our admissions staff. Have you interacted with them at this point, even via email? Radhika, Karishma, and Shivani? Okay, very helpful in the way that they communicate with parents to keep them updated on the process. So after the session, these folks and the admissions staff will be in the lobby to answer any questions that you might have. Okay. I don't think we do, but I will ask, are there any existing OIS parents in the crowd? No? Okay, good. So I don't have to make sure I address them. This is a term that I was not familiar with before I moved to India. And I've been here, this is now starting my fifth year in India, USP. So you can tell me if I get this right. Unique selling proposition. Is that correct? Does everybody know what I'm talking about? USB? I do get asked this question from time to time. Guess who asks? It's always the dads. I don't know why, but it is. The point I want to make to you this morning is this is not a sales pitch. And actually I would be very disappointed if you walked out of here thinking you were just pitched to. What we're trying to do is share a very honest representation of who we are and what we believe and the work that we do with kids. And so it's going to be honest, and it recognizes, because it's going to be honest, I think it recognizes this, that admissions is a two-way street. And certainly as we gear up for admissions here, we're thinking about our process and our questions and all the things that we'll do with kids and parents during that process. But the other part of it, I think, is equally, if not more important, and that's the decision that you all have to make, right? And so I don't lose sight of that I can stand here and talk to you about my school and what it's like and all the great things going on, because of course we're putting our best foot forward. But I am mindful of the fact that while you're sitting here and listening to all of this, certainly most of you are here because you've heard that OIS is a good school. I think you need to figure out if OIS is a good school for you. So is what we believe similar or in line with what you believe? Is the way we do education in line with what you want for your children? That's a very important thing that I hope that you consider while we're going through this presentation. So what I'm going to do is, during the course of my 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to talk a little bit about the generalities, things that are important to us. And so the first place we start is with health, safety, and security, because I think it's our number one priority to ensure that while our students are under our care, they're healthy, they're safe, and they're secure. And so to that end, I just want to bring a couple of things to light. It is our number one priority, and it's linked directly into our mission statement, where we seek to provide a safe and caring environment in which teaching and learning can take place. Beyond that, if your child is a bus student, from the moment they step foot on the bus, they are under the care of the monitor who's on the bus. They are buckled in. We have GPS tracking if we need to use it. We have CCTV cameras in the buses if we need to use them. So really from the very start, when it comes to your child moving back and forth between school and home, we work actively to make sure that they're safe. You have encountered our security. We'll take questions afterwards, okay?
Is this the same as the earlier one?
It is the same as the earlier one, yes. Yes, the same jokes even. So, yes, you do not need to stay for the second one. Thank you. Very good question. So you have encountered the security staff, and not only are they at the points of access, but they're on every single level of the building, and that's across both campuses, making sure that the facility is safe. For parents, for existing parents, when they come to school every day, they show their ID card, and the guards know that even if they see this parent every single day, and they know who they are, and they know whose child, or what child is theirs, every day they have to show that ID card. So we really try to make it controlled access. And then across in both facilities, we have an extensive network of CCTV cameras just in case anything comes up that we need to verify, right? So we try to have all the buildings covered. And it even goes so far as when we provide lunch, as we do on a daily basis, making sure that the food we're putting into our kids' bodies is healthy and is prepared under very rigorous conditions. So certainly for the students' benefit, we make sure that we offer a tasty menu and one that has sufficient variety and nutrition, but also our Sodexo folks upstairs work under very rigorous standards. So that's important to us. And there's lots of other things. We do have a health clinic on each campus that's staffed by full-time nurses. We have a tie-up with the local hospital, so a couple days a week on both campuses, we have a doctor who comes in. We also have water filtration units throughout the building that are serviced regularly, so we make sure kids drink a lot of water. We want to make sure the water that they're drinking is safe. Fire safety equipment all throughout the building, as well as a network of fire alarms, and then also we have 2 AEDs on both campuses. And I can go on and on if you want me to. We have emergency procedures in place. We do drills on a regular basis, evacuating the building and how that's supposed to work. So this is something that we put a lot of energy into. In the ad, it does mention that we work according to a one school, two campuses framework. And so it's worth it for me to spend just a minute on this. We do have 2 locations, and we endeavor to keep things uniform and the same across both of the schools, both of the campuses. And that is everything from how we're governed by our foundation and board of trustees, to the policies that are in place, to the academic programs that we run. Admissions process is the same, the uniforms are the same, even the food served on both campuses is the same. And so that's very important to us, but most importantly, we believe that the quality of teaching and learning is the same across both campuses. There's a difference, though, between the two, and it's very relevant for this presentation. The OGC campus at this point is a 3-program IB school. So that means they are officially allowed to run the 3 programs, the PYP, the MYP in grades 6 to 10, and then the diploma program in grades 11 and 12. The difference is that because this school only opened 2 years ago, it's still in process. So from the kids' perspective and what happens on a daily basis in the classrooms, kids in the primary are getting a PYP education, same as the kids up at the OGC campus. The difference is because we haven't completed the full process yet, we don't yet have that official stamp of approval. When will it come? Very good question. It will come in November, we think. We've done all of the things that we've needed to do. We've worked with the IB for the last 2+ years, and so we're hoping and we're planning for that IB authorization for PYP to happen in November, and for DP to happen in December, and then for MYP next year. Okay? So all of this is on track, and everything is looking positive. I don't want to give an exhaustive list of what we have in the building, in this building, in that building, all the facilities that we have. I hope that your impression so far this morning, just having been in the lobby and then been in this wonderful space, is that the facilities are top-notch. And I don't say that to brag. I think I say that because I'm very proud to work in a place that feels that kids are so important that they deserve the best that we can offer. And so what I want to do with this next little bit is not just talk about the spaces to some extent, but also to have you focus in on what kids are doing. Really talk about the facilities and also the kind of learning and teaching that they allow us to provide. Look familiar? How many of you went to school in a classroom that looked similar to this? Okay, some very reluctant hand raisers this morning. I did. That's what my classroom looked like. This is a bit more dated view of it. Tony, is that your classroom? Are you one of those kids? A more modern twist, right, where kids have devices, but the arrangement is still the same, yes? Right? They're still sitting in rows, they're still facing one direction. That's in the direction of the teacher, who of course is the font of all knowledge. And so what I want to tell you first off the bat is that our spaces are different. And that means that the learning that kids engage in at our school is different. So this is a panoramic view of one of our SKG classrooms here, which is really a triple classroom. Those panels that you see on the left and the right can be closed to segregate those classrooms off into 3 separate spaces. But we keep them open. And in that space are 3 separate classes doing all kinds of different things. It's a really collaborative space for the teachers. They get to work together. The kids get to work together, not just with the 16 or 17 or 18 students in their particular homeroom class, but across the 3 classes. You see any desks, individual desks set up in rows, facing all in the same direction? No. Okay. So that means that, so what are they doing in there? Well, in very general terms, because I'm here to give the overview, their learning looks very different. A lot of it can be and is self-directed, like in this SKG classroom, or in a primary classroom. Right? Kids are doing different things, but they're working at their own pace and on their own, possibly with the input and help from their classmates around them. So our spaces foster collaboration. So all of our kids work together, and that's a really important part of our school and our organization, and we expect that of the adults as well. So that's, again, in early years. This is what collaboration looks like in secondary and in primary as well. Right? Kids seated together, working together, sharing ideas. Yes, they do have devices out, and so technology is a big part of what we do here. There are spaces that allow for exploration. Right? In the early years, a student working on a very detailed drawing. And in secondary and in primary as well, I've seen this, kids using the whiteboard space in the classroom to diagram or to demonstrate their learning. This is a secondary school sciences classroom where they're looking at cell function and cell structure. Right? And think about the traditional classroom. The blackboard or the whiteboard, there's only one person that gets to write on that, and that's the teacher. Right? Not the case in our environment. And also spaces and setups that foster at a very early age a sense of independence. Okay, so an early year student, probably an SKG, serving herself at lunch, because it's important for kids to start developing those skills, that sense of independence. Now, there are teachers. I don't want anybody to think from those photos that there are no adults in the building and everybody's just left to their own devices. So I will tell you that yes, we do have teachers in every classroom. And they do a variety of things. In a nursery classroom, they're leading story time. In a secondary classroom, they're facilitating a visual arts lesson. Right? But always, I think, sort of in the thick of it. Not standing at the front, but really learning and teaching alongside the kids. Demonstrating a high level of care and attention, doing things like building connections and building relationships, and also having fun. Right? That is a very important descriptor for us for that job of teacher. You have to be able to have fun. You work with kids all day. No matter where they are, the facilities are safe, whether it's the science labs up in the secondary school, whether they're on the rooftop here, or across the way. I'm doing a swim unit in PE class. Clean and well maintained, that's very important to us. And spaces where kids can settle in and get comfortable and be themselves. I love the girl on the right with her shoes off. She's comfortable and she's reading, right? And that's a wonderful thing. And also spaces that are supportive of our programs. Got a duplicate slide there. Primary kids in the science lab. Right, so I'm going to go back to that, and I'm going to close out on this. This question of what is our USP? I'm not really going to answer that in that form. This very young future graduate, I want to talk a little bit about the overall experience here, which is very difficult to encapsulate in the space of a 45-minute or 1-hour presentation. But what are we doing for her? Because at the end of the day, this is who we work with, and this is who we're going to see at some point move out of our school and into the world beyond. A lot of our conversations with parents tend to get into these things. A lot of parents tend to think about education as being somehow directly linked to these things, like homework, things that we describe as more of rote learning, mugging up, which is another term I never heard before I came to India, exams, grades, when do the grades start, content, above all else, the information that they learn in the class, and also this idea that they're in these very discrete subject classes. And what I can tell you is it doesn't really approximate what it is that we do here. What the parents think about and worry about, by and large, I hate to generalize, tends to be a little bit different from where we're going with what we're doing in the school. And so to go back to this, what are we doing for her? Well, we're providing an education that's really based on a lot of different things. One of those things is our vision. And you can see it right in the back of the t-shirt there. One that factors in this development of a sense of independence and empowerment. Right? This idea that students in the IB lingo have student agency, right? The ability to have input into not only what they learn, but also how they learn it, right? And that provides that buy-in, which is very different, I think. When I was in school, there was always somebody telling me what I had to do. And the teacher determined what I was going to learn and how I was going to learn it. And it works a little bit differently here. It's an education that's based on our core values. And so I don't want to go out on this very thin ledge that I sometimes go out on, where parents hear things like vision and core values and think that the program lacks rigor. Knowledge is there. Knowledge is the first of our core values. And it's there, and our kids get that. But then they get so much more. And they get the things that were not part of my education. Maybe things that I absorbed by osmosis to some extent, this idea of social responsibility or respect. But these are things that are built into the curriculum and built into the experience that they get. So it goes beyond just the knowledge. We talk a lot about the IB learner profile and the traits that we're trying to get students to develop. So things like we want them to be communicators and thinkers. We want them to be balanced and reflective. And bottom center, we want them to be knowledgeable. Right? That continues to be a very important part of what we're doing. We usually describe these things, and a lot of people do, as soft skills, which I think creates the impression somehow that they're nice to have. I think they're actually essential, especially when you think about the world that our kids are going to go into. We all went off equipped with a set of information, right? A set of facts, a set of knowledge. And we're in a world today where that's changing very, very quickly. And so really the idea is, why do we do it this way? I think in large part it's because we can't actually map out the future for our kids. We don't really know with any degree of certainty what the world is going to look like when it's their turn to move out into it. What are the things that they're going to need? Well, I think because the knowledge changes, the information that's out there changes so rapidly, it's not going to be an education that's based on content, right? It's going to be an education based on the skills that they learn, the traits that they develop that are going to enable them to do this. Throughout their lifetimes, learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so they need to be flexible in order to do that. And so having one set of information in your head that's static and unchanging isn't really going to cut it for these kids. They're going to have traits that will allow them to flex with the times and to be adaptable. And by the way, to do things on their own. That's going to be an essential piece. And I think of it like this way. Collaboration doesn't go out of style. Right? The idea that you need to have a skill set that allows you to work with other people around you, that's something that's never going to become obsolete. I think it's pretty safe to say. And so that's why it's so important, and that's why we spend so much time focusing on those kinds of things. Okay, so that's my piece, and now I'm going to turn it over to Tony, who was in that photo back then. Did you see which one he was?
Hardly I didn't want to shit as well. Thank you. I'll have you know, I am not old enough to be his father. Okay, so I'm Tony. I'm the head of primary over at the OGC campus. I come from New Zealand, so please bear with the accent. Hopefully you'll be able to understand what I have to say. So, okay, so we're here to talk about the primary years, so grades 1 to 5. So let's just get a sense of who's here. Who's looking at a grade 1 child for next year? Okay, grade 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. Early years? Okay.
Just the one left.
Just the one left, okay. All right. So, as Steve has said, we are one school over 2 campuses. And each campus is at just a little bit of a different stage in their development. At OGC, we have been over there for about 10 to 11 years, and here, as Steve has said to you, for about 2 years. And so our number of classes at each level just looks a little bit different, as you can see there. The number of students that we have in both campuses is a little bit different. And then we've got a whole lot of teachers and faculty who are there to help us to do our job. Over the time I've been here in Mumbai, the questions that come up most are what I want to address with you now, so that you don't need to ask them later on. So, bear with me as I try to read your mind about what you want to know about. Length of the day. So, here is the slide for you. So you need to be here, or your children need to be here just before 7:45. It means you guys have to get up pretty early to make sure you're here. Classes end at 10 to 3. Not the same for early years, but for grades 1 to 5, 10 to 3. There are after-school activities that will see children working back at school on some optional after-school activities that are offered through till about 10 past 4. And we work on an 8-day cycle. I had a dad just before you came in here asked me, so how does this 8-day work? Do you like work for 8 days and have a day off? I said, no, it actually works like day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Saturday, Sunday, 6, 7, 8. So you don't need to worry so much about what day it is. The children know, and you just go along with them. Now you know that Steve's already talked about the fact that we have lunch and class sizes, roughly. Sometimes there might be 1 or 2 more, 1 or 2 less, depending on the particular year group. But roughly, those are the numbers that we're looking at. So for you, from grades 1 to 5, we're looking at roughly 20 students in a class. Just the same as what you had when you were at school. I did when I was in New Zealand. I don't know about you, Steve, in the States. 30? We were much more progressive. And I know you guys, some of you have been in classes which are 30, 40, 50?
70.
No. How? Gee. That must have been just control for the teacher. Would have been tough. Yes, there are school buses, but we contract them out to an outside provider. Now, this one's got me into a bit of a trouble because ask the question, do we have testing? And the answer is no. We don't test children. We don't say on Monday, here are 10 spelling words, we're going to test you on Friday. We don't have maths tests, the same as what you might understand testing to be. Do we know where every child is? Yes, we do, because we're assessing all the time to work out where they're at And what's the next thing that we're going to be needing to teach? What's the next skill, the next step that they need to be at? And we don't wait until the end to find out what that is. We do that day by day, looking, videoing, observing, having conversations, talking with the children about where their learning is at, but we don't give them a test at the end to find out too late what they know and what they don't know. And do they go on school trips? Yes, they do. So in grades 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 5, we use the outside resources to the best that we can that's fit with our units of inquiry, what we're doing in class. And then at grades 3, 4 and 5, we take the children outside of the school for a period of time. So in grade 3, we head out for a night about an hour and a half away from the school. And then in grade 4, we're away for a couple of nights, about 2 hours away. And in grade 3, we just go further away from school. So it's about a 3-hour trip away from the school. But everything that we do links back to learning. Do we teach languages? Yes. The language of tuition is English. From grade 1 through to grade 5, they have Hindi lessons every day. In grade 3, 4 and 5, we introduce Spanish and French. Lisa is going to talk to you about the program now that we offer in the primary years.
Thank you, Tony. I'm going to use this one. Thank you. Morning. Morning, everybody. Hi, kids. Where are the children? Hi, give me a wave. Hi, you're sitting ever so nicely. Thank you for sitting. Thank you for being patient. It's a little bit boring when grown-ups talk for a long time, isn't it? Sorry. Morning, everybody. Thank you for giving up your time this morning to find out a little bit more about our school. Really appreciate you giving up that time, so thank you. My name is Miss Lisa. The kids call me Miss Lisa. I'm originally from Wales. I left there 20 years ago, and I've been overseas for 20 years. So I like to think of myself as a true international citizen. I have an 11-year-old and I have a 6-year-old. So I have the luxury of being both a parent and an educator. And I know for some of you, making the choice of where you put your primary child is a big decision, especially if some of you are thinking of shifting your child from one school to a new school. How many of you are thinking about that? Yeah, it's quite a big decision. They've got their friends, they've got their familiarity, they've got their routines, and you're making that shift, right? It is a big choice. It's a big choice indeed. So what do we offer? I can't really explain what we do in 15 minutes. Safe to say, over the course of the academic year, we do provide a lot of workshops for our parents to understand what it is that we do. But the children are the ones that will teach the grown-ups. So kids, are you listening? Right? We empower our students with all that knowledge and understanding of what it is that we try to do. So hopefully the children are the ones talking to you. How many of you have seen this symbol, this icon, this acronym? How many of you have seen this before? Okay, so like Steve said, our school falls under the umbrella of the International Baccalaureate. In the primary years we do something called the PYP. It's an international curriculum for schools. It was created 1997. It's not British, it's not Australian, it's not American. It's a combination of all the good stuff that exists around the world. And it's also a program that was first created for transient families. So I had a few questions with our earlier group this morning saying, my child is in an IB school and is doing PYP at the moment. Does that mean it's going to be the same here? We follow the same set of standards and practices, and schools tweak it slightly for where we are in time and place, but pretty much the primary years program is the same if your child has been in one of these schools before. So like Steve said, there are those two campuses. At OGC they've been authorised to teach the primary years program since 2011, and for us, we're a candidate school. This is my 6th international school, my 6th PYP school. I choose it as a parent, I choose it as an educator. My son has just done 3 different PYP schools, and now he's in MYP. It's a program that works for me, it's a program that fits my kids very nicely as well. We are very far along in the authorization process at this campus, and a lot of parents came up to me earlier and said, does it make a difference? Does it make an impact that you're not authorized? No, not at all. We are teaching the program, we are implementing it with the kids. All we need is for those visitors to come in and say, yeah, you're doing all the right stuff. So the aim of the program, how many of you are in an IB school, like right now? Okay. So the aim of the program is to develop internationally minded learners, and that's quite a big concept. It's quite a huge thing for our children to understand and for our parents to understand. But at the core of it, what the IB strive to do is set up these learner profile attributes. This is at the core of all the IB programs. Again, as Steve had mentioned, it goes beyond the knowledge, it goes beyond the knowing the stuff, and looking into how do we find out about what it is that we know? What do we want to learn? Open-mindedness. You know, we have a lot of local children in our school, a lot of local teachers in our school. One of the things we do quite well is looking at our locality, but also opening the minds of the children globally. So what are we about? It's been mentioned already, collaboration, children working together, working in teams together, and learning how to do that. And for primary, there's quite a challenge, because by about the age of 7, children know who they are, right? They know, or think they know, how they learn. So then they have to negotiate their collaboration skills with other children too, and it can be quite challenging. In those collaborative sessions, what you'll see is something called the ATLs, and Steve touched on that a little bit earlier. It's learning about these things. It's learning about the how are we able to do what it is that we do. So something like research, when children are finding out about something, it's important that we go through the stages of, well, how do you research? What do you do? How many of you have been on holiday recently? Or thinking about going on holiday? Do you research it? Yeah. And you just know how to do it, right? I hope you know how to do it. Do you just Google it? Nice family holidays in Mumbai. That's what I do. But for our children to get to that point where they can play around with searches, we have to teach them how to do that. And to look at the stuff on the internet that isn't true, that is questionable, and to look at a variety of sources. So these skills are really embedded in what it is that we do, and it's important that we explicitly teach it too. You'll see a variety of learning engagements with our primary. You'll always see them together. We do appreciate that some of our children like to work independently. That is also one of the things that we look at as well. But we're really looking at 21st century skills where children are creating and collaborating together. I just wanted to show you this video. We did this last year, Kristen took it. For our children who are making that change, what's the difference for them?
In this school, we do more activities and we get mixed up, the genders get mixed up, and it's not just sitting at the table and writing everything, noting down stuff. Thank you.
Writing.
In our old school, we just had writing, and like you at least finish a book in 1 month. So we would get different many books, but this school is way better because we will get more time to play, but we are learning it while playing also, and there are many activities we do and many more things. Thank you. Old school, it was the only girls' school, and we used to do very little activities. Now in this school, we have many activities, and my old school, we used to have less time to play, And over there, the teacher used to just write everything down and we used to copy it. Over here, the teacher does discussions with us and then she writes things on the board so we can write it. In this school, the learning is different because in that school we only used to write, and in this school we write a little bit. We tell the whole class, we help each other in work, and we work on iPads. So this is a Ivy board, and I used to study in CBSE.
Yes, I like the way they make all the studies into activities, and they just change all the boring stuff like memorizing into games, so we have more fun remembering and it becomes like a challenge. I like coming to school because it's sort of not like, doesn't feel like you're going learning, just teaches us in a different way. I love coming to school.
Feels like we're not learning. I love it when children say that. And play. Play is a big idea for us as well, even at primary. You'll hear the word inquiry a lot through this program as well. Inquiry, asking questions. And for our primary, it's really important that the teachers tap into what the children know already. A lot of parents ask this question of, well, do 7-year-olds learn this stuff, and 8-year-olds learn this stuff, and 9-year-olds learn this stuff? We really don't teach like that. We really look at each individual child. We have a benchmark for each of the subjects, and how the child learns those outcomes can look very differently depending on each student. They could be working towards it, within it, or beyond it, and the teachers cater for that. And parents find that quite amazing, that it's not one size fits all. So they'll work through something called an inquiry cycle, with the belief that learning is lifelong. It doesn't just stop after 45 minutes or 2 weeks. Learning is lifelong, right? They will start a unit, and I'll show you a little bit about the units at the moment that we do. They'll start with, well, what do they know about that unit already? Why would we teach children what they know already? Why would we do that? Why would we do that? It just doesn't make sense. So we take a prior assessment and we look at, well, what is it that they do know, or what is it that they think they know, and then we take them through that learning journey. And we take them from the known to the unknown. And they go on a journey of discovery, which usually lasts about 6 weeks for each unit. Primary students will do 6 units of inquiry. These come from our program of inquiry. All PYP schools do the same. Through the course of the year, they will cover all these concepts. The idea with these themes is they are very connected to what makes sense to children right now. So parents have asked about technology, environment, health, gender, sexuality, all sorts of things that are very relevant from now. They come through in those units. And in those units, we do something called transdisciplinary learning and teaching. There's single subjects. All the subjects are interwoven into those units. So we don't just do a 6-week art unit or a 6-week mathematics unit. The subjects come together depending on what the unit is. And these are all the subjects that primary children will get. As Tony said, the Hindi starts in grade 1 every day. Parents often ask, oh my goodness, my child's Hindi isn't very good, we don't speak Hindi very well, we don't write it, we don't read it. Those grouping strategies that our Hindi department do are very much dependent on what it is that the children are learning. Okay, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Technology, our grade 5s. Do we have any grade 5 children? Thinking of grade 5 children? Yeah. So they bring their own devices, and they're using technology as a tool quite regularly. We do have quite a flexible approach to how we integrate technology. Parents, how many of you are scared about technology with your children? How long they spend on it, what are they doing, what are they watching? So we do a lot of educating of the parents, and the students about what it is that we're trying to do. They're growing up in a technology era. We didn't, right? So it's important that we recognize what it is that we're doing at the moment. In primary as well as the early years, you have the homeroom teacher and you will have an assistant teacher. They learn with the other teachers, they learn with other children across those grade levels as well. So they will experience a range of teachers during a day at school. But the role of the teacher is not to do what I'm doing to you now, standing up in front of you and talking at you. It really is collaborative, it really is discovery and working in different grouping strategies and working with different people all the time. Student agency is a big thing we promote. We really want our students to take ownership of their own learning. What is the point in what they're learning and what are they going to do with it? We rarely ask those questions as educators. Why are you learning that? But this program really promotes the idea that children are very aware of not just what they're learning or how they're learning, but why. We do a lot of parent workshops, and I just wanted to show you a quick parent testimonial about her understanding of what it is that we're trying to do.
Hi, thank you, Kristen, and the OIS team for holding this workshop for us. I think what I picked up today is the IB learning style is very collaborative. There's a lot of research involved, and what I like the most about it is that instead of giving a ready-made set of things for students to learn, they're encouraged as a cohort to think and reflect on their learnings. I really liked the exercise that we did at the beginning of see, think and wonder. I think we all try to do it in all one go, but it seems IB is able to help distinguish in there, so that children are a lot more observant and apply a lot more thinking in whatever they are learning. So thank you so much. Look forward to coming back.
So we provide a lot of parent sessions in school on various subjects. We have our coordinators involved, we have the leadership team involved, and teachers who will lead sessions based on what it is you want to find out more about. And the best way for you to learn is to come in, learn about what it is we're trying to do, and then see your child in action. Really important. The biggest thing that we ask our parents to do is really look at these three things. You know your child very, very well. We know them in a school context. So it's really important that you believe and trust in what it is that we do and support our philosophy. Children, there's no homework. Just saying, sorry parents. Just saying. Children, there's lots of play. Children, there's lots of technology. Children, there's no testing. I know, it's exciting, right? So one of the shifts that you have to make as a parent is what your beliefs are about what it is that we're doing and understand what it is that we're trying to do. And that can take time, but one of the things we do really well at this school is trying to educate our parents as well as the children on what it is we aim to do. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you, children, for sitting so beautifully. Can we give the children a little clap? Because I think they did very well. Thank you.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move out to the lobby, and there's 2 exits here. And not only are we going to do that, did you all get to have a chance to see the QR code? That's, I think on the soft boards it's posted. So that gives you a link to our prospectus. We decided to be more environmentally conscious this year and not print a whole lot of booklets. So if you scan that QR code that's posted in the lobby, that will give you access to the prospectus, and it explains a little bit more about what we do and how the school is organized. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move out. These folks are all available to answer your questions. I would only ask that if you have questions about the admissions process, there they go, Radhika, Shabani, and Karishma will be outside and can help you out. The rest of us can really answer questions that are more about the program and about what we do, and why we don't have homework and why we don't have tests and things like that. So we will be outside waiting for you, and thank you again for your attention.